I said I had a hard time hiding this box from you guys to prevent spoilers in a scene where it was sitting right next to this box, and absolutely nobody commented about it. Back when I started hiding that other box from you, none of you would have ever let me get away with something like this. You'd have noticed. You'd have said something, but no! For Christmas last year, HeadGames Motorworks gave all of you one of the coolest presents on YouTube, and some of you haven't even opened it yet. Shame on you. In that video, David Localio guides everyone through the process of hand-porting a 2G cylinder head for CNC mapping to make big power. This is not that video, but you know what? As soon as David announced the arrival of their new Centroid 5-axis CNC machine, I started trying to beat his email inbox's door down, trying to be the first one on it. I'm proud to be the first loser because if any of you are going to have any questions about how to hand port a 4G63 like the pros do it, or how the baseline map for the 2G DSM cylinder head got established at HeadGames, then go open your Christmas present on their YouTube channel already. The link to it's in the description. It's the baseline work for the map that's used on my cylinder head. So there are many reasons why I chose HeadGames, and we'll get to those, but there's one big reason why they told me no. It's because my cylinder head was way too shiny. Heck, I don't blame them. They know what work looks like. I assured them that all the risk was going to be mine and mine alone, and that this wasn't my first rodeo with a polished cylinder head. So, you know, it's my third. As long story short, they said okay. Still, what you're seeing is going to be so beautiful that you might feel the urge to polish your cylinder head. Don't do it. Don't. I do have the entire video series. It's going to show you every single step and how long it took me to do this, only really fast so that it looks easy. It's not. The reason why I had to polish this cylinder head was to replace the original one. It ended up getting dedicated to the Gliptol build, and this is for a theme car, and reviving the original 7-bolt block meant that I needed another cylinder head to match the original one and still keep the car's history correct. But the original cylinder head did have a few problems, and to me, one of the biggest things that kept me motivated through the 10 months that it took me to do this was the opportunity to do something even better this time around. I'm building on that past legacy. HeadGames shares lots of great tech about multiple platforms, whether we're talking about import or domestic. I don't want to tell you a staff's combined work experience because there's several ladies on the crew, and that's a sensitive thing. So anyway, but what I can share is of all the people I met, they've spent a lifetime developing, nurturing, and cultivating horse purse. I drove up there with several of my cylinder heads and I stayed overnight. Hey y'all, I'm in Princeton, New Jersey. I am checking out of my hotel room and headed down to see Dave Localio at HeadGames. And we're going to go have some fun today with some cylinder heads. Yeah, that's actually the only video I shot from that trip. Rather than paying shipping, I wanted to burn $100 worth of gas and pay for a hotel, just to drop off a shiny cylinder head and meet their awesome crew. I stayed just long enough to get kicked out. My new personal best. It took me barely under 2 hours. That may or may not be an embellishment, but they're a business after all. It's not a vacation spot. Even if my vacations usually do look like this, we all had important work to do in our shops, so that all worked out for the best of us anyway. I'm at HeadGames because of my Patreons and out of gratitude for Norman Ing. He's not an employee there, but the idea and all 3 machine short blocks that you've seen lately and the whole course of videos that led up to this over nearly the past 4 years, all his fault. My story and mine changed because of that dude. Norman and I were pit neighbors at the second shootout that I attended. David was there too, but I didn't waste his time because I was broke. And I don't think that Dave was there looking to talk to strange dudes in Elantras either. I mean, maybe he was, but he seemed busier than that to me. And I tell Norman all about the 6-bolt build and the cylinder head that I just completely rebuilt, baked, Gliptol, coated, and repolished for the GSX. And he tells me, you should use a HeadGames head. Deadpan me right there on the spot. I was speechless. I mean, ouch. He wasn't impressed. But then he listed everything that I did to it that I knew I could have done better, and I knew he was right. But I was trying to build only one engine at that time, and that 6-bolt hadn't gone sideways enough on me yet to be smart enough to take his advice. It did plant the thought about justifying a reason for doing all this again and what it would take and what kind of commitment it really is. Years later, Norman invites me to World Cup Finals, and there's a montage of legends at the end of one of my videos called What Will the GSX Build Look Like? By this time, I've had it with my 6-bolt and still don't know if it can be fixed. And for the second time, I see David in a different state at a different event taking pictures of his customers' cars again. The guy whose YouTube videos had me cracking up for the past 2 years while I learned stuff. I'm like, he's really good at getting out and doing the thing. and that impressed me. Plus, I'm a fan, so I put him in that montage. I watched the Red Demon fall a hair short of the 6s, and then I go back to the pits and I have a conversation I'll never forget with a great friend that met the idea of me building 2 engines for my GSX with enthusiasm, and gave me a lot of encouragement. And then 5 minutes after that, I'm shaking the hand of the machinist that managed to fix the unfixable 6-bolt for me, as well as all of the machining for both of my other 2 blocks. George ran me over with Cletus' stacker that night while I was walking back to my truck, but I'm tough. It was a fitting end to a great day where I'd already run into everyone else. On my way home, I thought about how awesome it would be for my audience to see something like this in my build. My mind was made up. But then I go home and I didn't even have a cylinder head to polish. I went through 3 that were supposedly uncut before I found the right one to do all this to, and on all the dozens of 4G cylinder heads I've ever fondled, this one's the best 2G casting I've ever seen. And now I have this last piece of the puzzle getting finished right before your eyes, all because I went out and did all the things so many times that I made all the right choices, shook all the right hands, and, kept going out and doing all the things. Because of Norman, I'm still broke, but darn it, this is cool. David announced this CNC last year. The CNC doesn't just magically port your cylinder head for you, though. A lot of work goes into creating the maps by hand first, so there's a massive amount of time, testing, skill, and science deployed long before this machine ever gets involved. Once they've got a hand-ported and proven example finished, that's when the map is digitized that allows this machine to reproduce that work. The CNC mechanizes and automates a lot of the work they've had to do by hand for decades, but it doesn't replace it all. It just drastically reduces it right along with the time that it takes to do the job correctly. That's why these machines are expensive, but being able to benefit from all that prior time and research is the real value in this for me. My turnaround was very fast, and I'm grateful for the trailblazer who helped David establish that work, because it would have taken me 10 times longer to come nowhere close to this end result. It would have been pretty imperfect. Yeah, I already have that one, that's why we're here. My engines are built 100% from gratitude and fellowship, and this is what that looks like. I'm very fortunate to be able to borrow the experience of others who've spent a lifetime developing their crafts, and to have any of this become a part of my build. All of this enriches my life's experience.
It's one shiny, bro. Looks good in the CNC, that's for damn sure.
It does, David. It looks great to every single last one of us, and thank you for helping me to tell my audience a better story.
Look at them bins. Look at them bins.
I hope that I've managed to fully explain in my own words and in video exactly how meaningful all of this has been for me, and how grateful I am for all the people it's brought into my life, the connections I've been able to make, and why I'm just as happy to see this as you are. This doesn't just complete my engine's parts list replacement for a theme car cylinder head that was hand-ported, hand-polished, and then rebuilt and resurfaced multiple times. This one was a flawless low-mile uncut original, hand-polished again by me despite my protestations, and broken promise to never do it again, and now this CNC port is the first and only machine work that's ever happened to it. This is an improvement in every possible way using all the currently available parts, technology, and knowledge. The bronze valve guides replaced the old steel units, and this alloy is a much better material for performance from both a heat and a friction standpoint. Of course, being brand new, they also need to be cut internally to fit the valve's clearance specifications and their thermal expansion limits. So afterwards, all of them are reamed out to get that dialed in just right, trimmed up, and then, once all the guides are in place, they're used as the center to cut new seats perfectly to align the new valves. And now for the best narration work I've ever done before about radius cutters.
All right, so let me interrupt real quick and just say that we don't use radius valve jobs because radius valve jobs don't work in reality. Radius valve jobs work in theory because people think that you're trying to get air out of the cylinder, that you want it to be the smoothest as possible. And that's why a lot of people sand their cylinder heads just like you have. You're going to sand it because you think that that is what's going to make it, the air move better. But that theory doesn't actually work in the valve job section. In the valve job, it will flow better on the flow bench, but it doesn't work better on the car. Now, I don't want to get into theories here, but there is reasons why this is a thing. And I know from experience that I don't want to hurt it by putting a radius on it. And we stopped using radiuses many years ago from learning this. Also, 5-angle valve jobs. A lot of people think that a 5-angle valve job is the industry standard for what's badass, but it's actually not, because in a lot of cylinder heads, Mitsubishi included, the valve seat's just not wide enough to put a 5 angle on it and it not be a radius. What did I say about radiuses? We don't want them. So either way, we're talking about something that could flow better, but not work better. And what we're really trying to be concerned about is how it's going to fill the cylinder, which is something that the throat and the valve job, most important 2 areas of any cylinder head on the planet, that is what you want to get into. Fortunately, the only thing I have here to show you is on the 1JZ, and here is the valve job. You'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. So it has a top cut. Here is the 45-degree angle, and this is what the valve seal's on. Then you have your second bottom cut, you have your bottom cut, and you have your second bottom cut, which goes into the throat. And that is a 4-angle valve job. And this will actually outflow, or actually outwork, a 5-angle valve job any day of the week. So the biggest takeaway from this is for you guys to know that not all valve jobs are created equal. And just because somebody puts a valve job on it, you can actually hurt it and you don't know it. It's best to go with ones that know.
Thank you, David. But here we are with the finished seats, and you can see how much detail was paid to the flow into the combustion chamber. It doesn't matter how big your intake and exhaust runners are if you can't get the flow right here correct. HeadGames was even nice enough to fix one of the valve cover bolt holes that I never noticed was stripped. Thank you, because I didn't QA that one myself. Now I won't have any troublesome holes. And finally, after all of the cutting and grinding is completed, it's time to resurface the deck in preparation for its new head gasket. The deck surface is lubricated for the cutter to help eliminate chatter and heat, and that's extremely important if you wish to remove the bare minimum,
The magic stuff right here.
of what's necessary to make a great cut. In this case, only 0.02 was necessary, and I'm happy to see that the machine doing this work is actually the exact same model as the one that milled my other GSX head several times. Different machine, but same model. Never had a head gasket related failure. Sonnen makes some great pieces of machinery. Not all of them in my experience, but this one's definitely a gem. Though the King of Bling contest has long since ended, it's only fair to this car's legacy to keep it alive by pretending that it never did, that it hasn't ended. I took full advantage of this opportunity to do something better, because technology didn't stop moving when the GSX took an arrow to the knee. That was actually the moment it all began exponentially accelerating in the automotive world, and I was stuck rebuilding an Elantra. Almost a boosted renaissance occurred of sorts, and if the King of Bling contest were to reappear again today, I'd be burdened with having to compete with all of that. So it can't come back as the same thing. For me, the performance side of this has never been an afterthought. The point was always to make the fast one shiny. So as far as I'm concerned, I've waited for exactly the right time to upgrade and bring this one back. A shiny low 12-second car ain't such a big deal 20 years after the first time it made its debut in the show circuit and I started doing this. And while performance wasn't the real point of the contest to begin with, it was still always a consideration with the judges. So HeadGames is going to be my gap insurance whether we're talking about racetracks or car shows, because it's a whole lot harder to compete with the Joneses if they're bringing that to either place. Nothing is left with a bare CNC finish. All of it gets hand blended, inspected, and it passes through multiple stages of QA. I've seen a lot of shop layouts and I was impressed by the efficiency here. A lot of thought and preparation went into every single stage of their layout.
Woo! Ready for final clean. Nicey nice. Look at them ports. Bronze guides. I love you. Look at that. Let's take a look at the exhaust. Looking pretty. Making it. And surprisingly, all of your polishing didn't get harmed. I thought it was going to get really scratched up and hurt, but it didn't look bad. And, you're slacking over here, by the way. That should be polished by now. Can't believe you. Valve job looking nice, ready for assembly. So we use this tape here. This is for, so when we put it on the Trago, so we have this, it's called a Trago. The Trago, this right here, has an issue with scratching heads, because this is all metal stuff. So after we mill heads, we put this tape on it so we don't have to worry about it. Hey Jaffro, I'm on my way to do a second inspection on your cylinder head. I can't wait till you see it, because this thing is looking dazzling. Check that out. Check it out. GSC power division valves. I think we did all right. Didn't destroy the aluminum polishing you did. Looking marvelous. Marvelous. CNC. All for you, buddy.
Even though everyone just saw all the video of this head getting worked, this was my first time seeing anything about it since I dropped it off. And the reality that this belongs to me in its current state is just setting in. That this has actually happened. The 7-bolt build might not have a Gliptol coated crankcase, but it's going to have a HeadGames CNC ported head on top of it. That's got to count for something. Like I said, if I have to follow my first act and keep the King of Bling build current, then I had to improve on it. And I can't do it any better than this for my audience. If you want to see the difference Patreon made for me when the whole world and internet turned sideways, you're looking at it. This is what's going on my numbers matching block. All 3 of these engines are now massive success stories, and a ton of work's been completed on both of my chassis. It took a lot of failures and a lot of work to get here. Norman, all your advice fixed all of my problems. It was hard, it was expensive, but the experience has been priceless. Both of your recommendations far outperformed my expectations, and in a big way even took me to school. Thank you for that day at the World Cup Finals and being the guy who knew absolutely everybody that I needed to meet. I got to do it while watching some awesome stuff and spending time with all the other people who've inspired me for so many years. This is the evidence that there's always the greatest reward for going out and doing the thing. So if you do it, they'll have it. Or something like that. I forget how it really goes. Point is, you got to do the thing. And do the thing I must, because this one's not even done yet. HeadGames might be finished with it, but that was just one of the stages of a polishing series. Now that the abrasive stages are complete and it's had its machining done, I can finally complete the polishing series. That's right, as if we hadn't tied down enough loose ends already in just one video, let's add another. I'm using the poly tape to prevent scratches and to seal up all the runners from the mess that I have to make. It's not going to hurt any of the work that I just had done to seal it up like this, unless I can't keep it all stuck down. And that's why I'm not using masking tape. This tape is heat resistant, but if you don't carefully trim all the edges back, you're going to have a bad time. This is the most tedious kind of tape to trim precision edges on for polishing, but it's still the only tape whose adhesive won't turn to goo and let go once the part gets hot from polishing it. Every other kind will do that if you're polishing it correctly. This stuff doesn't, but you just have to ensure that you have no overhanging tape like this, no ragged edges, or else a polishing wheel will peel it back, contaminate it so that it won't stick, and possibly even strip it off. To ensure that you don't have ragged edges and overhangs, you just have to trim around the flanges with a real steep angle on the blade to back cut the solid areas where the tape sticks. This keeps the edges well clear of the tape and lets you keep working instead of trying to fix the areas that keep coming loose. So spend as much time as this takes because you're paying it forwards here. This actually took me almost 2 hours. It made me really happy to get to the easy part of sealing up the top half of the cylinder head because I've got a cheap gasket set to sacrifice, if it should even wind up coming to that. Rubber half moon seal too, how about that? You don't see those too often. Pretty easy to seal this up with all the spare parts that are engineered to precision fit it. Yeah, perfectly. Sorry, no fancy tape valve cover this time, but I will use some fancy STM valve cover hardware to hold this one down. But this doesn't seal up everything. The injector bosses need to be plugged, and because it's me, you know that involves poking a hole in an earplug and then jamming an M6 bolt through it. Did that 4 times and it looks like this. It was a fight to get him in there, and that's sure to keep the funk out. The front balance shaft seal doesn't fit the cam seal because it doesn't go there. I simped on this with some masking tape and made it bigger because it's a sacrificial plug anyways, it doesn't matter. The coolant port for the thermostat housing is easy to mask, but the same rules apply with the steep angle back cut trim thing because I'm going to be all over this spot and in every direction with that polishing wheel. But that concludes the coolant system. I don't have cams in here and I don't need them yet, so tape's going to be just fine here. Just burnish it down real good so the tape sticks. I gave it 2 offset layers for safety. I'll blame safety. Only thing left are the breather and the PCV ports, and at this stage you've spent longer masking and sealing it all up than it should take you to polish it if everything goes right. That's what all that proper prior planning was about. To produce the highest quality result, all my abrasive polishing methods needed to all be completed before the machining started. Black emery rouge compound is abrasive and it gets caked everywhere, so it has to be cleaned out because it's what's best for the machines and it's what's best for my parts. But that initial black rouge shine sure did look good on that CNC. I mean, it looked pretty good, but it's only what black rouge is going to get you. That was my prep work, and it was filled with all the micro abrasions that black rouge leaves behind. White rouge works by friction, and if you can't tell there's a whole lot of it right here, hold on. This Milwaukee die grinder that's polished everything for decades fakes like it's on fire every now and then. It has actually burst into flames before, but in my experience you can just leave it alone for a few hours or days and it comes right back like nothing ever happened to it. We'll try that. I can use air tools for a little while. They'll work a little bit slower, but they'll do fine. Now that my machining's finished, I can wrap up the fine polishing stages and show you what all that work before was for. White rouge is adhesive. It's not abrasive. In other words, it doesn't remove any material. White diamond rouge is more like a hard clay. It's dense and sticky, water soluble, but this is a completely dry process. I'm just letting you know that it's that safe. It's a friction modifier, and its purpose is not to cut, it's to generate enough heat and friction that it stretches the outer molecular layer of aluminum over itself. And the more directions you can stretch it, the shinier and smoother it gets. This is what makes the shine durable, and it's going to remove every single last swirl and abrasion from the surface. Or it's going to reveal where you need to do more prep work. Only one of those two results, so about an hour later I picked up the Milwaukee again. Use flannel wheels with white rouge whenever you're doing this. It's fine if you use a harder stitched wheel so long as it's still flannel. You'd use unstitched for a final pass or detail work. But to bring out the bling, you can be aggressive and you can leverage pressure, so hard wheel's going to do fine. Oh good heavens, this is hot. Now, look at the chooch on that one. Yeah. Pressure's what it took to do this one in. Again, we'll pretend that we're sad about this. Don't worry, it's going to be fine again tomorrow. You'll see. At this stage, anything oxidized or foreign to the casting that's left anywhere on the surface is in for a hot, sticky surprise, and all of it's about to lose that battle. You can make aluminum shine with a black rouge cut, but it just doesn't last. You could see how this one shined like milk before I started. Hazy gray, and to me it looked crusty. It reflected and it looked okay because all the surfaces are planed, but I've never stretched any molecules on it prior to right now to reveal what it's even capable of. This is where it becomes a completely different kind of shine, and you're going to watch it happen. It's the quality of the darkest reflections that it can produce that are actually going to make it glow the brightest. And while you can bring that effect out with black rouge, past the black rouge stage, there's still a whole lot left in it. You can almost get it as dark as chrome. I say almost because, sorry, chrome's always going to clash with it. It's a completely different color. You can't mix chrome and polished aluminum in the same engine bay. It just doesn't work. Aluminum will always be brighter, but this is white rouge, and it's the compound that will produce deep reflections and ridiculous mirror-like results without chrome if you do your prep how I demonstrated. People confuse this for chrome all the time, and this is actually way harder to do. Having spent all the time in materials doing all that prep work, bringing the true bling out at this stage is really easy. After you do your first pass with the white rouge, you typically have some buildup and clumps in the corners. Some areas that didn't get to spend as much time with the flannel wheel as they needed, and you watch me prep an angled die grinder in this scene just to be replaced in the next one by one that's about 3 times as efficient with its air consumption versus work achieved. The polishing bobs are felt, so they're nowhere near as soft as the flannel wheels are, and they're going to leave tracks wherever you go with them. I'll make a few areas kind of scruffed up and show you why not you shouldn't scribble with it. But to do consistent work, define all your corners and your edges. Always keep the movement smoothly, don't linger anywhere with this tool. The wool's much more abrasive, and did I say that already? Don't worry, once we're done with the bob, there's still plenty more that I plan to do to this. Like here, after the first white rouge pass is finished, you can see some other scratches occurred at whatever point between its original preparations and right now, and who cares. This is revealing that the white rouge won't take this kind of stuff out, but it's really insignificant, and I'm going to show you why. But first, look around and eyeball everything else that you might be able to make a little bit better. There's some kind of chatter here from something. Maybe I can get that out. There's the tracks from the felt bob that I was telling you. You'd have to clean that up, and all this can be fixed. But what you need to fix either situation can vary a little. At any stage, if you find scratches in your finish that white rouge didn't take out, go ahead and grab that black rouge and blend that spot right back in. So that's basically what I'm going to do for these deeper scratches and the dings that we looked at. Use your cutting compound and get it out of there, but with enough time and wheels, you can take almost anything out with black rouge. Of course, it's on the large area. If it's a big flat space, you wouldn't want to just touch up one little spot. You'd want to hit the whole big flat area and do it evenly, or else it's going to show up in your final finish once you're done. You'll see it in the reflections. But on your first polish, there does come a point of no return on that, initial investment of polishing time, because it's still going to take you a lifetime of polishing to maintain afterwards. You started, so now it never stops. It's your fault. Don't do it. Black rouge is actually not necessary because of how I did my prep. I could have just gone straight to the white rouge and burned up 24 wheels, proving that to you, but I only use 2 wheels like this, and I still prefer using the black rouge before the white rouge because it makes the whole part look smoother and softer when it's finished. Some people finish the black rouge stage and insist that shine's good enough for their purposes, and sometimes the material you're working with totally lets you get away with that, but in every case, the white rouge still leaves a better quality finish on soft metals, and I'm convinced that the maintenance is easier because it offers the least amount of surface area at a molecular level to react and oxidize their atmosphere. You get lots of time to think about this kind of stuff if you're the one maintaining it, and you will, trust me. But the farther you take your initial polish, the less maintenance it's going to require over time. You'll pay dearly for putting shortcuts into your process. All those years when I was winning trophies with it, it was an outside car. I never chained it up. It had a comfortable gravel driveway to sit on, and I took it for hard walks regularly, and it loved that. But it was certainly not the best living conditions for a build like this. In my experience, it always took maintenance to keep it shiny, even once this thing became an inside car. That never changed. But I know I always spent the least amount of time and effort bringing back all of my white rouge finishes all throughout it. But we're done with all that for now, and though this is a step backwards, a somewhat destructive cleaning process, I'm using Neverdol to remove all the caked-on polishing compound that's all over it. It cuts right through it. I let it sit overnight, and there, I ruined it. Not really. Everyone who's been in the US Navy can smell this video right now. This stuff's great for stripping oxides and bringing back something that was once polished without any of the buffing wheels and tools and air tools or electric tools catching on fire. In that regard, it's a miracle product, but it leaves scratches on white rouge finishes, and that's the reason why we're going backwards. But the reason it's okay for me to do that right now is it's getting all the black rouge and white rouge cakes out of the cracks and crevices and deep cleaning all the pores of this metal everywhere that I applied it. You could buff this once it dries to a haze, or you could let it sit until it fully crusts like this, and then it wipes away easily like a powder. After the buff, I'm switching to the Blue Magic polishing cream, only because the squeeze bottles keep dry rotting and shattering. And to tell you the truth, this looks like exactly the same stuff that's in the bottle, smells the same and everything. I don't think it matters much whose metal polish you're actually using. Everyone's brand of aluminum polish will remove any of the kinds of minuscule things that look like scratches from the Neverdol. Everything it left behind, one pass with this stuff, and you're right back to that deep, rich white rouge shine again. I use microfiber towels for this and everything else going forward, just from here on out. No oilcloths, no paper towels, nada. You can actually scratch a white rouge finish with a cotton t-shirt. You always have to consider the coarseness of everything that ever touches your parts after you polish them due to how soft aluminum really is, because if you get it wrong, it doesn't take very long to end up with hazy looking fine scratches all over it. There aren't stacks of flannel everywhere at your disposal, so microfiber is perfect for everything until it gets something sharp stuck in it, which it does like to do if you mishandle it. You can make life very hard for yourself in the maintenance process if it ever happens, but you can see why people do all this work. It's absolutely beautiful on the other side of this whole process. I like to build the kinds of engines that let you keep finding interesting things to look at the longer you stand there. This part is the centerpiece of everything that does that. And once you bolt everything back onto it, a lot of it becomes less accessible, making it more difficult to maintain. Well, a sealed finish doesn't oxidize, and that's great. but every kind of clear coat yellows from heat, UV rays, and chemical exposures to quickly dull that finish. It doesn't matter if you spray it on, bake it on, or what, all of that subtracts from your hard work's potential. Clear coats act like a filter, taking some of the brilliance away. Who here remembers a product from the 90s called Zoop Seal? It's actually Shine Seal, and I'm glad they rebranded it because now the product name actually says what the product does. And this popped up in the Sunday morning power block shows, and it was usually featured on some bright shiny thing that everybody wanted to protect, usually wheels or something like that. This is a three-stage process to apply it to polished aluminum. You see there's 4 bottles here. One of them is a polish. You don't actually need that. But there's a bio cleaner, there's a slick finish, that's the last stage, and then right there's a metal sealer. So this bonds with the aluminum. After you apply it and you let it dry, it repels pretty much everything because it seals the surface of the aluminum and stops the oxidation, and that's the purpose of this. It can prevent you from having to repolish it. They claim up to 2 years. Well, I guess we'll find out, won't we? It withstands temperatures of up to 700 degrees, and this product is something I've always wanted to try because I've always just left the aluminum completely bare and maintained it and touched it up as necessary. Since we just finished polishing it, there's nothing stopping me from going ahead and doing it right now. We're not going to need this polish because, you know, I think we did all right. This is worthy of sealing up. You start off with exactly 473.6 milliliters of water, which is 16 ounces, and you need to add to it 29.6 milliliters of the bio cleaner. We're going to start there. I'm just going to do a 30. I'm going to overdose it. That extra 0.4 milliliter. But really all you do is spray it down and clean it and wipe it. We don't have time to listen to you babble on at normal speed, Jaffro. This product is not cheap until you figured out how many hours of manual labor it can save you. And because I've already managed to put a great finish on it, now's the best time to use it. It says to rinse it, and I do have a deep basin sink, just not here, and I don't feel like moving my camera and lighting that space, but after you've rinsed it, you have to thoroughly and completely dry it first before applying the sealer. Heads up, this kit expires. It has to be used soon after you buy it. This came in today and I'm already using it, so don't buy this in anticipation of polishing a thing. Do it after it's already polished or when you're getting really close to finishing it. This is a product that chemically bonds with the aluminum and seals it. Like how Rain-X fills in the pores of glass, making it more slippery to water, this is the metal equivalent. But this is not a wax, it's not a polish, and it's not a cleaner. And even though it appears to come with all of those things, it's a combined kit that's formulated for all of it to work together after your final finish is achieved. You don't want to put this stuff on thick and juicy. Get your detail work done first and then wipe it on all in one direction. If you see heavily applied areas, clean that up by wiping it with a dry cloth in the same direction you applied it. It takes forever to dry inside in air conditioning. It looks hazy while it's wet, and after the first 3 hours, I decided to pack it up and, finish it the next day. It was fully dry by then, no idea how long it took to dry. Some of the brilliance of the bare finish disappears with this sealant, at least it does to my eyeballs, but in a very minute and minuscule way, like 1 to 2% on my eyeball meter. And now it doesn't feel as smooth as the bare finish used to. It's not as sticky, but it's now like it's a shiny part that I can grip and have traction on. It feels way different than it looks after this, and that's because of the texture of the dried sealant. That's the reason the slick finish formulation's included. This smooths the sealant layer, bringing that brilliance right back out of it, and if you ever saw the ads for it, there's footage of muddy water beating and rolling right off of its polished aluminum wheels that go in and out of a puddle. It comes out looking exactly the same, and that's not my plans for these parts. I don't want to mud them up, but should that ever occur, that's exactly how I want it to go. I've never had this before, and for this product, if the price of it lets me use this car more and spend less time polishing it, it's worth every penny to me. I know a lot of you were curious about how I'd be protecting my aluminum parts, and this right here is it. But that's only one headache solved. This whole cylinder head was created because this problem child was modified to fit a different block. And now that that's complete, sitting side by side, it's obvious that the new one is far better of a job than what's on the OG one right now. OG got soda blasted when it was rebuilt and it dulled the exhaust side, taking a lot of the luster away. It looks like it's there, but trust me, it's gone. This one needs to go back to a black rouge touch-up, clean up, and then a white rouge finish again. Basically, it needs everything that was just done to the new head, except I can't afford the CNC job on this one. That would have been nice, but one's enough for right now. You guys all know the valve cover. It's an equally neglected looking shape because of several modifications and all the handling that it's been through, hanging on my wall ever since. I'm not going to show you all the work and hours that go into doing the same thing to this one because I don't want to subject my camera to it. I don't want to edit that footage, and you've seen it, the whole process that I'm going to use. With all the time waiting for compressors to charge and cool, I'm just going to do all the work and get it done without the video production. I'd like to show you why I didn't use that fancy 10-inch polisher in the background on the cylinder head though. While a 1-horse 3/4-inch industrial polisher is an amazing time and effort saving tool, it doesn't work on everything. Superior to every single bench grinder for this kind of work, because of its torque, its giant wheels just don't fit everywhere. The speed and torque of this wheel will not be forgiving to the material of your part if you try to force it into all those crevices, especially if you're using black cutting rouge. You could create some real deformities like that. Because of this friction-based process, the wheel will always be trying to pull the work out of your hands. Notice that's plural. You have to maintain your grip on your work with both hands at all times, or else the wheel becomes the boss. Gloves are always recommended on this kind of wheel, but I wanted the extra punishment today. This tool generates a whole lot of heat, lots of friction, lots of dust, but lots and lots of bling really fast, and that's the whole reason why I wished my electric die grinder would hold out for this job. It can do that kind of detail work with smaller wheels and all the torque that this one's capable of putting down if you can get a good one. And if you can get a good one, it's going to do the same thing that you see happening right here with the big industrial polisher. I just can't find one anymore that can survive this job, but I figured I'd put this thing to use because all the other things that I need to polish while waiting for the compressor to charge and cool, this keeps the ball rolling because I have plenty of other stuff that needs this work. You might be saying, but Jaffro, there's lots of detail work in that thermostat housing. And yes, there is, but small parts like this with detail will work still on this wheel because you can rotate them around using the wheel direction as a means of digging in there and bringing it out. It's the big heavy parts like cylinder heads that have deep recesses, like on the intake side around the timing side. That's where the big wheels just don't make any sense. Some of those areas, you're going to be hard pressed to find wheels or bobs that are even small enough. But things like valve covers, aluminum oil pans, and flanged hose fittings, those are the things that the big wheels and the torque of an industrial polisher, the torque that produces is going to help you get the most done with automotive stuff. Whenever you can do this, this is always the best tool for that job. This oil pan, and you can see it, is just bare unfinished sheet aluminum welded together with stickers on it. This polisher will put a hard bling on sheet metal or tubing with zero preparation whatsoever, aside from peeling those stickers, of course. It's so much easier to cut and polish this kind of stuff than it is to polish anything that's cast. And if there are intricacies that you can't reach with the big wheels, you can clean all those up using the other smaller tools. Just be aware that different polishing tools, different wheel materials, speed, and torque characteristics are all going to do the same thing a little bit differently, and over a different range of time as well. None of them are going to exactly match what the other tool does. That means you're going to have to blend all of it in order to make it look right. There's not a spray, a coating, a wax, a paint, or anything other than hours of tedious manual labor that can produce a finish that looks like this on cast aluminum. You get a little break on the sheet metal stuff like this though. This cut and polish, including the masking job and cleaning off the adhesives, only took me 2 hours on the polisher. That's what the big polisher does, and that's also the difference between cast and rolled aluminum. For sheet metal stuff, it's just black rouge, never dull, to clean it off, white rouge, a liquid hand polish, and a buff, and you're done. You can glass bead your cast parts like thermostat housings and go straight to the black-white liquid polish sequence that I mentioned. That's what I originally did with these, but if you want those flat, distant, deep, dark reflections in your cast engine parts, hand sanding and planing all the flat areas is the only way to do that right. I learned this the hard way by doing it twice, and I never fully removed my mistakes from the first try. They both look great, but there's an obvious difference between the reflections in the old one versus the new one. I did a far better job polishing it than I did with the first one. It has deeper, richer looking luster, and in all of its flat surfaces, and they're all flatter. It doesn't have 50,000 miles worth of road and wrench rash on it, and I even polished more of its surface area this time than the original. That's the recipe that I demonstrated in my polishing series, and believe it or not, it took me half as long to do this one than it did on the first one, because this time I knew what I was doing right from the start. I didn't have to relearn what worked and what didn't. I did it with zero do-overs. So let's go visit that home garage whiteboard where we wrote all this progress down. Welcome back. It's been a little while since we've been in here, and the lighting's always going to be terrible no matter what. This is where we left off. As you can see, I've got 9 steps written up here on the board, including step 0, and there's only 8 numbers. And the reason for that is because step 8 was interrupted by what I'm going to call step 9, which was machining and rebuild. And then we had to finish the second half of step 8. So I'm just going to go ahead and break it down into 11 steps with 0, and that's what a Jafra style polishing job actually looks like. Step 10, but it's 11 steps because there's a 0. And this is going to be the cleanup and final polish. I went back and I watched the other video, step 8, and we left that one off at 15 3/4 hours. The machining and rebuild, I actually did a Galant VR4 cylinder head inspection video and outlined the cost of what a cylinder head would be, and I didn't even include the cam gears, which are $420, and those are still not here yet. But the Galant came with an estimate that I've exceeded by more than 3 times, and without the cam gears. Good times. So I'm just gonna, it's not fair to HeadGames for me to blame all that on them. A lot of this was me. I had to still buy all that stuff and get that work done. So I'm just gonna put $signs there. Step 10, cleanup and final polish. I filmed 12.5 hours of video of actual work polishing because of the way it went down with the tool selection. I gave the compressor equal run time and equal rest time. And the compressor ran for 10 of those hours. So I'm gonna put that at 22.5 hours. And it's painful waiting. The tool selection makes a difference. If you can find the electric tools, you can blaze right through that job and withstand it. Just like that industrial polisher, then you'll get through this much quicker. That's a lot of time. None of that time calculation includes the other cylinder head that showed up halfway through this video, or any of the other bolt-on parts that are now finished and polished. I basically did step 10 twice in this video, plus I sealed everything bare metal with Shine Seal. What? You don't think that I took both of the blocks apart and sealed up all that stuff too? You bet your ass I did. This video's actually got over 60 hours of work in it because it's 2 heads plus 2 whole engines final polished and all of their bare metal parts seal coated, including the water pumps, dipstick tube, bolt heads, and freeze plugs. One Shine Seal Master Kit coats 80 square feet. I only used 1/3 of it, and I'm glad I didn't film it all. Just what you needed to know about it. You can't get back in here to polish it after all the belts and brackets and covers and hoses and wires and frame rails are in the way, so now is the only time to do this, and the results came out shockingly good. I take back everything that I said about it slightly dulling it. The slick finish really makes up for that and more. It really glows. This sealant is washable and it blows dry without spotting. It doesn't just seal polished finishes, it can seal cast finishes as well to keep them looking new, but it's going to effortlessly keep all of my hard-to-reach billet parts bright and shiny after assembly. These cylinder heads look the same, but they're very different inside. The OG had 1 mil oversized valves cut and fitted, and I wish I didn't do that to it, but it's done. Inconel exhaust valves and stainless steel intakes. I've got a set of Kigley beehives set at 98 pounds of seat pressure, and it was hand-ported back before it was winning shows, or when it received its second valve job. We all know its cams, dual valve springs, and valves ended up in my Hyundai, so to bring the GSX back, I had to replace all of the valve trains twice with better stuff. The HeadGames unit is done right with standard sized valves, 10 times better combustion chamber finishing, completely deburred. It's got a valve job and throat design that's going to maximize its efficiency filling the combustion chamber and help me overall develop a better tune. It has stronger valves, better guide material, and though the OG is no slouch performance wise, this freshly polished HeadGames CNC ported cylinder head is a better example for my GSX in 2025 in every single way. The new King of Bling head is an everything upgrade. Sorry this took so long. I just set the bar really high for myself to begin with. Both cylinder heads are getting ARP stainless steel studs. That one hole that's circled looked stripped, but it's actually got a fresh helicoil in it. Of all the bolt holes on all three of the cylinder heads that I pulled out at HeadGames and put on their bench, somebody noticed that and circled it. I love that. And of course, there's the one in the head oil return galley that you need to RTV the hole and squish out the excess to permanently prevent future oil leaks. You do this to mash the RTV deep into the threads. Now, there's a topic that Dave touches on at the end of your Christmas present, and I've run into it plenty of times. He left some great advice in that video. I put the exhaust studs on here because I want you to see the exhaust side lined up with the gasket. You see that lip around the inside of the gasket? That's on purpose. That gap keeps you from cooking your gasket. What typically happens here is carbon builds up on the inside of that gap on both parts, both the cylinder head flange and the manifold flange, making each part individually look to somebody that like the parts don't line up, like there's a step or that, one doesn't match the other. And here on the intake side, you can see whether my cylinder head that was hand ported or the HeadGames ported head is used with the factory intake gasket. It's already lined up and gasket matched right from the factory. It's a cold part and it doesn't need that gap. I've seen lots of DSM cylinder heads that were still ported further and opened up more in the wild. Port matching is okay, gasket matching is only for cold parts, but Mitsubishi's already done this for you. Just know that carbon lines can be deceiving, and I think that this is a lot of why this happens to otherwise good parts. And though it's done with good intentions, it's not done with a full thought process by people who spent the time to look at all three parts together. Both flanges and the gasket. Either way, don't ever port through a carbon line without looking at all the parts.
Hey, I just want to say thank you very much for letting us do your cylinder head. I know that you were a do-it-yourselfer and you chose HeadGames. And I really appreciate you. And I appreciate when you came over here. You taught us a lot about 4Gs that we should probably already know, but there's something to say about somebody who really concentrates on knowing one thing, and I think that you have that, and thank you very much for helping us.
Helped you? What YouTuber of my size and scale ever gets to do something like this? This quality of work's completely foreign to my domain, and I know how lucky I am to be bringing this to my audience because we love this kind of stuff. I know I'm speaking for all of us when I say thank you for that video footage of history being made, that footage of a $500,000 plus machine that I can't afford. I'm thrilled to have you guys to be a part of my project. I'm grateful for the support I received from Patreon to help me achieve something like this, and I'm coming right back to finish these now that both heads are here and ready for prime time. But in the meantime, be sure to check out the description for the links to the whole story on both mine and HeadGames channels. Thanks for watching, rating the video, and telling me what you think, and until next time, stay tubed!